land. Good day, everybody in Facebook land. Paul Sterling here, and tonight I'm going to talk about connection, compassion, communication for couples. And I'm going to fill in this right here. And this is the building blocks for a remarkable relationship. So if you have any questions, you can just type them in. I will try to answer as many as I can, and hopefully I will see them, because sometimes I can see the comments and sometimes I can't. So I'll start again. Paul Sterling here. I am the author of Argue Less, Love More. It's a book on relationship communication and compassionate communication for couples. So tonight we're going to dive into that. What does it take to communicate compassionately and stay connected and be courageous in this time, this challenging time when we're doing social distancing and locked in houses together? And I am going to dive in and fill in these blanks, and you will understand relationships in a very different way. So hopefully you can grab a pen and paper and follow along, because I'm going to talk about the 3 components you've probably never thought of before in relationships. We're going to go through the heart set, the mindset, and the skill sets that you need to make a relationship remarkable. So what I want to do is ask you in advance, how many of you have ever been confused, frustrated, heartbroken, overwhelmed by relationships? I have been coaching couples for 25 years, and I have had literally rocket scientists and doctors and lawyers and people that are incredibly smart and have a hard time and sometimes get overwhelmed in relationships. So I'm going to go through some of the tips and tools and techniques there. And I want to say, I have that challenge too. It's not like I got a free pass here. I have to apply these tools on a regular basis myself, even though my relationship is quite remarkable. I'm lucky in a lot of ways, and it's still a challenge. It's a growth curve. You look at some people who are in really good shape, and you know, some of them you can say, yeah, that's luck. But most of them, what you don't see is them working out at the gym. You don't see all the hard work that goes into looking good, or you don't see, like, who's a great musician, you don't see all of the years of practicing that goes into making it look easy. And that's what's going to happen in tonight. I'm going to give you an introduction to some of the tools you need to make your relationship look, well, be remarkable. I'll say one more thing about tonight. We do this call at 6 o'clock p.m. West Coast time and 9 in the morning. And this is, it's a combination of Scott Katamas, who's Love Coach Academy, Debbie G from Spirituality Gone Wild, and me, Paul Sterling, from, like I said earlier, Argue Less, Love More. So are you ready? This one here is the heart set. This is the big why. Why are we in a relationship? What do we want to get out of it? What are the different key parts? And there are 3 key parts. Hopefully you can read this. If you can't, you can go to my website, Argue Less, Love More, and I'll put up something where you can see a picture of this when I'm done. Or I'll put it on my Facebook page too. So this is the big why. So we have 3 building blocks to build our heart set. The 3 building blocks in a relationship. We're friends, we're partners, and we're lovers. So the friend part is, if you look at the components of the friend part, trust. And you can talk about anything and everything with a friend. There's a level of acceptance. When it comes to partners, because if you're in a long-term committed relationship, you end up being partners, somewhat partners in life. And when you're partners in life, you're looking at, do you have the same visions and values? Do you have games and goals and goodies? Do you have, do you feel like you're on a team? And then when it comes to lover, Is there intimacy? Is there romance? Is there passion? And what I want to do with this is you can almost look at it and go, red light, yellow light, green light. Green light is if like in this area, you have all three of those. You can mark it as a green. If you only have one, you mark it as a yellow. And if you don't have any, you mark it as a red. So when it comes to friends, do you have trust? Do you have, can you talk about anything and everything? And do you have acceptance? If you have all three of those, that's a green. If you have two, you can make it a yellow. If you have one or less, you can make it a red. Why I'm saying this is what we want to do is we want to look at the different components of a remarkable relationship and where do we need to work and what do we need to work on to make it remarkable. So this, and by the way, hi Morgan, I hope you're all ears and all eyes because you're going to have to see some of the picture here. Where are you typing in from? Let me know that. So here's the heart set. Here's that's the mindset. And in the mindset, this is what's actually, if you think about, this is why, this is who is running and often wrecking your relationship. Now, the thing is, there are hundreds, if not thousands of things that impact and influence your relationship, but there is one thing that is running and wrecking it, and most of you have never even heard of it, and that is your ROS, your relationship operating system. And like, I have this cell phone right here, and I checked it the other day. It has about 153 apps on it, but it only has one operating system. If I change the operating system, it impacts all of the apps. If I change an app, it doesn't impact the operating system. So you have an operating system. The problem is most of our operating systems are invisible to us. And what your operating system is made up of three core things. And if you start to look at it and understand it, you'll start to being able to update it. Because a lot of people, your operating system is 20, 30, 40 years old, hasn't been updated, is not user-friendly. So what is it made of? It's made up of your habits, patterns, and beliefs. That's your operating system. And the problem is all three of these are somewhat invisible to you. So if you look at it, what habits, when I go through this with a couples, I'm trying to find what habits support your relationship and what are sabotaging your relationship. So I'll give you some little examples of habits. I love coffee. But after 2 cups of coffee, I suck at being around, I'm no fun to be around. I get crankier, I'm shorter, I'm more temperamental, all the rest of that. So even though I love coffee, having more than 1 cup of coffee a day is a bad habit because it doesn't serve me and it doesn't serve the relationship. So we're going to look for, when we go through this with somebody, we look at habits in 3 areas. How do I take care of myself? How do I take care of my partner? And how do I take care of the relationship? What are the habits that support us? And what are the habits that sabotage the relationship? And I'll give you another example of the habits are unconscious. One of my former beloveds bought an electric toothbrush. It was her first electric toothbrush. And so for probably 40 some years, she had a habit of brushing her teeth like this. So she got the electric toothbrush, and what did she do? She brushed her teeth like this, only with the electric toothbrush. And I said, honey, you can actually just hold the brush there and it will do all the work. But it was an old habit and it's hard to even recognize it. It was invisible to her. That's the thing about habits, patterns, and beliefs. They're invisible to us. So that's about habits. What are some of the patterns? And patterns are habits over a longer period of time. After 6 months, the relationship falls apart because we have the pattern of looking for what's wrong. We go from the pattern of looking for what's right about the relationship to the pattern of looking what's wrong. We start changing our behavior. We get in these different patterns. And so again, we've got to look at what patterns are supporting the relationship and what ones aren't. And one pattern is going from routines to rituals. So a routine is when it's basically we're doing it unconsciously. A ritual is when we make it conscious. So one of my mentors, a woman named Allison Armstrong, talked about launching and landings. And launch is when you leave in the morning. And now that we're social distancing, there's not as much leaving and coming home. But even if you do, making the leavings and the landings a ritual rather than a routine, where you actually greet your partner and let them know that they're special and important. So habits, patterns, and beliefs. And what is a belief? People think that beliefs are permanent. That's I am my beliefs. I are my beliefs. Beliefs are basically a story we tell ourselves, and then with a level of certainty. Like relationships are, men are, women are. Almost all prejudice are just a belief, a story we tell ourselves about a certain type of people or a group of people or a certain sex or a certain choice that they're making in their life. So what we want to do is start to examine our beliefs and look at, are our beliefs supporting us, or are they making our lives smaller? And one of the things, I was with somebody who was making a belief. It's like I was watching him make it right then and there. And you may be able to relate to the story. He had found out the night before that his partner had gotten drunk and she had slept with somebody else. And it broke his heart. It broke her heart too, because she really loved this guy, but her behavior hurt both of them. And he said, I can't be with her. And here's where the story came in. The belief is, I will never let another woman get this close to me. I will never be this vulnerable again. He started to set up a belief that's going to make his life smaller. And I'm not saying don't protect yourself, don't be open and vulnerable. I mean, be open, and we are going to get our hearts broken. If we fall in love, you'll get your hearts broken. And at the same time, there's this great expression that says, ships are safe in the harbor, but that's not what ships are for. So your heart, if you're not in relationship, if you're not vulnerable, if you're not open, your heart may be somewhat safe, but that's not what your heart was designed for. So what I want to do, though, is give you as many tools as I can so that you're more likely to have a relationship become remarkable. And if you think about it, and I'd love to have you type in your answer, but if you want a remarkable relationship, is it based on skill or is it based on luck? So just type that in. And thank you for participating. All right. So this right here, this was the heart set. This is the mindset. This is the skill set, or how. So this is why we want to do this. And maybe you can tell me if you've got a different explanation or a definition of a remarkable relationship. To me, a remarkable relationship is one where my partner is my best friend. It also feels like we're partners in life. She has my back. I have her back. We have vision and values together. We're playing, we have goals, games, and goodies. We're lovers. And that means there is passion and there is romance and there is intimacy. And over here, to make it successful, we start to become aware of our relationship operating system. And we looked at creating habits, patterns, and beliefs that support the relationship rather than sabotage it. So let's move over to this last thing, which is the skill set. And in the skill set, and maybe I can share my screen with you in a minute so you can see this, because I know my writing is hard to read at times. But in the skill set, there's 3 mega skills. This is the big picture. 3 skills that you need. And almost every other skill is a subset of one of these 3. Number 1 is how to clear up the past. Number 2 is how to be present. One of the greatest aphrodisiacs we can find is someone who's open and present and connected to us. So that's number 2. So clearing up the past is number 1. Number 2 is present, and 3 is whoops. Boy, that is written really crazy. I'm trying to write upside down and backwards there a little bit. So it's clearing up the past, connecting, getting present, creating possibilities for the future. And here's what happens. This is a quick analysis. But when relationships fall apart, there's too much of the past that hasn't been cleared up is in the present and leaves no possibility for the future. Does that make sense? Too much of the past hasn't been cleared up. It's like one of the things Heidi Love, who's my co-teacher in the couples course, says, it's like we're always making deposits in the relationship bank. We're either making deposits or withdrawals. And each time we make a withdrawal, if we don't make another deposit in the future, at some point, our account gets overdrawn. It can be one big withdrawal, like somebody has an affair or cheats or lies or betrays, or it could be a lot of little withdrawals, and at some point the account's overdrawn. So we have to continue to take care of the past. It's sort of like when I get done here, I'm going downstairs and I'm going to do the dishes, because that's my role here. One of my roles here in the house. I handle the trash, the dishes, I do other things. Leah's got a green thumb. She cleans outside. She's an amazing cook. I am lucky to have that. So, but the thing is, if I don't do the dishes for 2 or 3 days, the past is taking over the kitchen, the present, and then no cooking happens. Nothing happens. And this is about this. Clear up the past. Do the dishes daily. Handle the issues. Do that. So part of what happens, there is a term out there. I wish I had somebody on here that I could talk to that was a nutritionalist. So for you nutritionalists, you will get this metaphor. Everybody should probably get it too. There's a term called bioavailability. Bioavailability is how much of a vitamin can your body absorb. And they're different, like if you take different vitamins together, it increases or decreases the availability of that vitamin in your body. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that that you get vitamins that are highly bioavailable. What the hell does that have to do with relationships? Well, if you want an amazing relationship, you want somebody who is relationship available. Someone who's mentally, physically, emotionally available to be in a relationship. And so this is about clearing up the past, clearing up the wounds, the triggers, knowing your attachment theory. All of that goes in here. And if the past keeps getting recycled rather than resolved, you would put and I'm doing this, did this over here. There's red light, green light, yellow light. So the red light is you put that on any area that needs the most work. If it's green, it means you really got this figured out. If it's yellow, it's in the middle. So if you know what your attachment theory is, if you're working on your wounds and triggers, if you are available mentally, physically, and emotional, that's green. If you have two of those, that's yellow. If you have one of them, that's red. And when I work with a couple, we have a map. This is like a map. Most people have no map of a relationship. And this sort of reminds me of a story when I was in New York City with my partner and we were trying to take the subways. I am not a city person. So what did I need? Because the subways are overwhelming. If I'm correct, I have a slide even with it on it. It's got like 400 or more. Let me just see here. It's got 800 and some miles of track in there. 840 miles of track, 472 stations, and 27 subway lines. How do you find your way around in all of that? It's not easy, but it's when you have a map. So this and this is your map. And if you start to look at it, it will make sense. If you're getting coaching or counseling or therapy and you take this in and you say, you know what? Here's the areas we need to focus on. We're not acting like friends right now, or our partnership or our lovership's not working. We haven't cleared up the past. We have a hard time connecting, getting present. There's no possibility for the future. If there's no possibility for the future, hope disappears. So when you have, it's like if you think about it, if you're going on a vacation in a week or so to Hawaii, this is under normal conditions, you feel hopeful and excited. If you're coming home from Hawaii and going to work, you might feel the opposite of hopeful and excited. Depends on what work you do. All right, so I'm having my little snack here. What happens when you put together your big why with your big how? This right here is the willing zone. When you put together your availability and your mindset and your heart set, you become available. And that's what in cleaning up the past. And here, when your skill set is set up and your mindset is set up, you can become present. Now, the thing that's important about being present, if you think about if you've ever hired somebody, one of the things you check out is their resume. What the resume is a story about how capable somebody is. But we rarely put that up on the internet and go, when you're looking at Tinder or whatever, however you look for a relationship, you don't look at their resume. But that's the critical thing. What's going to keep a relationship, what's going to keep love alive and have love last is when somebody's capable. So we talked a little bit about cleaning up the past. We're going to talk about what it takes to connect and be present. And I mentioned something in the past. I'm going to dive a little bit deeper in this. But I want you to see how this fits together. It's called the attachment theory. And there is healthy attachment and unhealthy attachment. But most of us have some sort of challenges when it comes to attachment. So I'm going to tell you the two biggest areas that I know. One is pursuant and the other is avoidant. What does that mean? Why should you know about it? It's critical to know what you are and what this is really is a pattern. So how do you deal when things get emotional and challenging and you get triggered? One way is avoidant. And what an avoidant is someone who, when they get triggered, they need to go and be by themselves to calm their nervous system down. What a pursuant is someone who needs to be together until their nervous system is calmed down. Now, there's nothing wrong with either of those, but you put together a pursuant and an avoidant together in a relationship with is really, really common. And so there's an upset, an argument, and the avoidant, I'm out the door. I want to go like calm my nervous system down. I cannot talk to you and calm myself down at the same time. So for me, I need to go for like a bike ride. I need to be out for like an hour. Well, if you're in a relationship with a pursuant, the more time that you spend away, the more agitated their nervous system gets. So you come back, you're nice and calm and happy, and they are freaked out. And it's like, wow, I thought you were going to leave me. And it's like their nervous system. So what you need to do is learn how to dance. If you've got a avoidant and a pursuant together, how do you do the dance so that when you get triggered, and we all get triggered at different times, when you get triggered, how do you do the dance so that the avoidant gets to go? And I think I'm using the words that are out there. I want to have a better word for it, because it's not like we're avoiding. It's like we're taking care of ourselves so we can come back and be resourceful. So the pursuant needs to have the relationship calm so that they can go inside and take care of themselves. The avoidant needs to take care of themselves first, and then they can come back and give to the relationship. So I'd love to hear from anybody if that's making sense or not. That's one of the critical parts. And if you don't know it, it's going to create a lot of problems, because both people think they're doing it the right way. So like, if you leave, it means you don't care about me and you don't love me. And if you really respected me, you'd stay here until we figure this out. And the avoidant is going, because I love you, because I respect you, I can't stay, because if I stay, I'll yell at you and treat you in a way that's not respectful. So they both want the same thing, but they have totally different strategies. That making sense? Now, the next one over here is present. And there is, behind this one, there's actually three. Behind all of there's three. So I'm writing these on here, the 7 skills. An emotional IQ. And that one, I can't even read it, but it says be with. So one of the challenges of being present is being with your partner or whoever it is. If you want intimacy, it's the ability to be with their upset, their pain, their fear, whatever it is, without trying to change them. So that takes a great skill, and one of the skills is communication. And in communication, the skill of being able to listen so that your partner feels heard, understood, and valued. Almost anybody, anytime that they're communicating, I'm communicating right now. What do I want? I want to be heard, understood, and valued. Everybody wants it. Kids want it, parents want it, your boss wants it, you want it. So what stops us though is occasionally, not occasionally, a lot of the time, we're afraid that if we understand them, it equals agreement. So we get in this battle of, no, it wasn't at 2 o'clock, it was at 4 o'clock. It wasn't at then, and we get in a battle over the facts versus going, tell me more. So that's a magic superpower, by the way. Tell me more. And in fact, I'm going to put a link up here where you can go and take a quick, it takes like 5-minute quiz to find out what is your relationship superpowers and what is your relationship kryptonite. And it goes through the 7 skills: communication, needs getting met, conflict resolution, trust, intimacy, dealing with differences, healing wounds, and taming triggers. So those are the 7 laid out there. By the way, over here, one of the things that you're trying to do, the only reason, did I say the only reason? The only reason to be in a relationship is to get your needs met. Now, I know that sounds either selfish or narcissistic or all the rest of it, but if you think of it the other way, if I said it the other way, the only reason to be in a relationship is to meet everybody else's needs. And that's what's been sold to a lot of people. That's like, be a good martyr, be a good mom, take care of the kids, take care of the family, take care of the laundry, take care of You know, I know I kind of stereotypically said that, and I want to be careful about that. Or be the good dad, provide, and don't take care of yourself. However you want to, you could switch those roles completely. But what the purpose of being in a relationship is to get your precious needs met and to meet your partner's needs. And the problem we have in this culture right now is we have a lot of need shame. And people are ashamed of having needs. And it's important, if you want to have an amazing relationship, to know what the top 10 needs are. There are 10 essential needs or 10 necessary needs. Let me see. I can even see if I can bring them up here. Yes, there they are. All right. You may not be able to read them. Whoops. I'm still working on my PowerPoint skills. There we go. I will read them out loud, though. And you can take a picture of the screen, or you can send me a message later and say, I'd love to have the handouts that you went through or the slides you went through. But the top 10 needs that we have, and what makes you unique is that you have a different order or sequence. Which one's your priorities? It's like a combination lock. The combination lock always uses the same numbers, like, to choose from, but they're in a different sequence and order. So the first one is about certainty and trust. How important is certainty and trust to you in a relationship? Some people it's number 1. Some people it's number 4 or 5. And every decision you make, what you're trying to do subconsciously up here in this, the mindset is you've got to make a decision based on prioritizing your needs. Which action will meet more of your needs? That's how it's working unconsciously. I'm trying to bring it to your conscious. So we're looking at the relationship needometer, and then we'll look at the skillometer, which is the 7 skills that you need. So trust and certainty. Can I trust you in a relationship? And do I trust me in a relationship with you? So the areas of trust: do I trust that you'll respect my boundaries? Will you respect my needs? Will you have my back? And then the second one, which people rarely talk about, is, do I trust myself in a relationship with you? Will I trust that I will respect my boundaries and meet my needs and keep my word to myself? Or will I make myself a martyr and make you more important to me? I'm not making you less important, but I'm not making you more important. So the first need there is certainty and trust. And if you look at, I have a chart here where you can fill it out at some point. One side is satisfaction, the other side is important. How important is it to you, and how satisfied are you in that area? The next one, so the first one is certainty. The second one is variety. And it's interesting. I learned these. One of my mentors was a guy named Tony Robbins. A lot of you have probably heard of Tony. And he does a great TED Talk. If you want to know more about the needs, you can go pull up his TED Talk. And he talks about 6 core needs that drive almost all of our behavior. When I studied with Marshall Rosenberg, the creator of nonviolent communication, he talked about probably over 100 needs. I've narrowed it down to the top 10 that most couples need to know about in relationships. So number 1, certainty. Number 2, variety, some uncertainty. You don't want the same meal every night. You want to mix things up. There can be boredom in the bedroom if you're not paying attention and trying something new, waking it up. Need number 3, significance or a priority. Do you make your partner feel significant? Do you make them feel like a priority? And it doesn't mean all the time, every day, but it's like, wow, I'm going to take a half an hour, and it's your half an hour. Like, I have never been busier than in the last couple of months. I think I've only taken maybe a day and a half off in a couple of months because so much turmoil is happening in relationships, and people are looking for coaching. They're looking for some help to have a breakthrough so that they don't destroy their relationships. And so with the time off that I have, though, is I will go to my partner and say, what would make you feel like a priority right now? What do you need? What do you want? And sometimes we get to do what she wants, and sometimes we don't. Like a lot of times we'll go for a walk with the dog, or we'll go down the coast. We're here in California, so we're lucky. There's some coasts where we can walk up. So you want to do this. You want to do this with your kids too. What makes them feel significant and a priority, and roommates and people in your life that you care about. Find out what makes them feel significant. Number 4, love and connection. And I was once told by somebody that I love you. And I thought about it, and I looked at her and said, yeah, but I don't feel loved by you. So it's like, how do you reach into their world and have them feel loved by you? And what does it take for you to feel loved by them? Growth is number 5. Are you learning and growing, or is your relationship dying? So plants, we've got a lot of plants around here. They're either growing or they're dying. Relationships are growing or dying. And it's like, do you invest time and money and energy in your relationship? People say your relationship's a priority, but then do they invest the time and energy in it or not? Number 6, contribution. Contribution is how it's Tony Robbins called growth and contribution, the needs of the spirit, of the soul. Like, we need to contribute, to make a difference, to know that we matter. Several years ago, I got contacted by an orphanage in Uganda, and I must admit, at first I was skeptical, and then it's like, I went, all right, what if it's true? What if it's really true and they really need money and it's a real orphanage? So I contacted Mosh, who's runs the organization, and got a video tour of it, and I met the kids. And I've been contributing for 2 or 3 years now, and it's like, it's a chance to give back to this planet. It's a chance to give to people who need something. It's a chance to make a difference in these kids' lives. But you find something that you like to contribute, or that your partner likes to contribute, and help them do that. That will help them get their needs met. I'm going to go a little quicker now, but intimacy, there's 3 different types. There's 3 shades of intimacy: physical, emotional, sexual intimacy. And getting all 3 of those met is really important. You want to make sure that all 3 of them are being met for you and for your partner. The last of the needs is for attraction, and staying attractive and staying in shape and doing what what it takes to keep the relationship alive and vibrant. So look at which are your top 3. And I'd love to see if you would type in the comments, what are your top 3s? What's number 1, number 2, number 3? And for me, contribution, growth, intimacy, and then significance, I think, would be there. So I cheated. I did 4. That's okay. Hopefully this is all making sense to you. I'm going to go back for people who joined later. I'm going to go back and do a quick review, and then I'm going to talk about the 7 skills. So the overview of this whole thing is there's 3 big pictures. This is your heart set. Your heart set. So what do you have your heart set on? And the ingredients that make a relationship remarkable to me is when you have a relationship that has a foundation of friendship. Feels like partnership, and there's a lovership. So they're your friend, maybe even your best friend. They feel like your partner, they're your lover. That's why you're in a relationship. And in here is to get those needs met, the needs I just talked about. So when you get your needs met at 7, 8s, 9s, even 10s, you're in a remarkable relationship. So that's that. Now, what's running and sometimes wrecking your relationship is right here. This is your mindset, but it's a part of your mind that's your unconscious mind. It's the invisible part. It's like when you look at the iceberg, which one was the most dangerous to the Titanic? What they could see above the water or what they couldn't see below the water? So what's below the water is our habits, patterns, and beliefs. Are they sabotaging or supporting your relationship? This is called your ROS, your relationship operating system. So when your heart set and your mindset are together, you start to become available. Now down here is your skill set. How capable are you to be in a relationship? So think about this. A friend of mine who's a dentist gave me this. It is a drill. Yes, it's the one that you use on your teeth. And so I could say, I've got the idiot's guide to how to drill out a cavity. Would you want me to drill out your teeth? And I'll do it for half price or a quarter of the price. Would you want me to do it? And if you're smart, you'd say no. Why? Because I might be really nice, might be really handsome. You might like that my hair is short, but I'm not capable in that area. So what we want to think about are what are the skills that you need to make a remarkable relationship. There are 7 essential skills that make you more capable. The big picture is when you're looking at your skills, those skills need to help you do 3 things. Clear up the past, connect and get present, create possibilities for the future. When all of these are together, you have the possibility of a remarkable relationship. Now, I'm going to give you one other skill set that you can look at. It's one of the 7. And it's how do you communicate when you get triggered? So when you get triggered, there's 3 basic C's that you can do. Number 1 is you can collapse. So when you get triggered and collapse, and this actually was my pattern. So I'm busting myself here. I'm leading the thing by saying what happened. Because growing up, when there was an upset in my household, I ended up being the person that it landed on. My older brother would pick on me. My dad was Irish Catholic, recovering Catholic, alcoholic, somewhat angry person at times. And so I tended to be the one who was in danger. And if I tried to stand up for myself with my brother, he would beat me up even more. Like he needed to make sure that I knew that I couldn't beat him. I couldn't stand up to him. So he would get brutal. And the only safe thing for me to do at some levels was to collapse. So I did. The problem is it became a pattern that stayed with me later in life and in relationships. So when I got triggered, sometimes I just collapse. And this is where it's lose-win. Your needs matter, mine don't. I'm going to just quit. So collapse, quit is another word for that. The other one over here is combative. That's like, the spelling isn't great there. I just do it. But see, combative over here, it's like I give up. Over here is I'll do anything to get my way. Both of these are based on the idea that my needs don't really matter. I'm going to give up and hope that maybe you feel guilty enough and meet my needs, or I'm going to take this. And there's a lot of politicians right now, I'm going to be very careful, but are very combative. And there's other ones that just collapsed. And what I'm looking for in my relationship and in life is this third C, which is courageous and compassionate. So if you look at courage, is to come from the heart, to be brave, to talk about the things, to talk about your feelings and needs. I would highly recommend, I already recommended one TED Talk, which was the one on Tony Robbins on needs, but another one that I would recommend, and I recommend to all my clients, is the one by Brene Brown on vulnerability. And pretty much all of Brene Brown's, I am an avid fan, because how we deal with our vulnerability is going to decide what kind of a relationship we create. If we can't be with our vulnerability, we'll have a hard time being with somebody else's, and it won't be very much fun to be in a relationship with them. So this is the dance. When we get triggered, when we get upset, where do we go? Do we go towards collapsing? Do we go towards being courageous and compassionate, coming from the heart, talking about what's, another word for this is voluntarily vulnerable, communicating from the heart? Or do we get combative? My way or the highway. I'm going to, take what I want. It doesn't matter what you have to say about it. So what would be great is when you are going through this, look and go, oh, which one do you go to? And I can go between these two at times. When I'm really triggered, I'll collapse, and then I'll get combative, and then collapse. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to push my way up and be courageous and compassionate. Compassionate with myself, compassionate with the people around me, with my partner. So those are the three things that we're going to dive into deeper when it comes to the world of communication. Communication is one of the 7 skills. So here are the 7 skills. When I talk about skills over here and the 7 skills to be present, here they are. Number 1, compassionate communication. Number 2, conflict resolution. Do you run from conflict? Does conflict run you? Do the same issues get recycled over and over again? Or do you have the tools and tips to be able to resolve conflict versus recycle conflict? Second one was actually needs getting met. Here, third one is conflict resolution. The fourth one is wounds and triggers. And Carolyn Mays, who's a great sort of new age teacher. I don't know if that's how she would describe herself, but she said we all get wounded The challenge is whether we get bitter or we get better. Do we get bitter or we get better? When you get your heart broken, it's tempting to want to shut down, to build a wall, to build like a moat around yourself. But do you get bitter or better? And do you open your heart? Do you know how to grieve? Do you know how to deal with the pain that's inevitable in almost all relationships? Number 5, as far as the 7 essential skills, is about trust building. And I talked already about that, trusting ourselves, trusting our partners in that relationship. Then the 3 shades of intimacy: emotional intimacy, physical intimacy, sexual intimacy. Understanding how to create those, how to keep that alive. How do you keep love alive long term? How do you go from the routine to rituals? And rituals are, it's just bringing consciousness to whatever you do. You can make a ritual out of washing the dishes. It's like, how do I be conscious when I'm doing it? How do I make this thing that could feel rather routine and make it back into something exceptional, whether you bring consciousness, whether it's getting up in the morning and having coffee with your partner. My partner and I try to, most mornings, make it a ritual of drinking coffee together and enjoying each other. Not every morning, but most mornings. Number 7 of the skills, and I would love for you to type in, which skill do you need the most and what difference would it make? So I was working with a client actually just before this call that had gone through a major upset with somebody, and it might have risked the whole relationship. And it got down to dealing with differences, difficulties, and how do they make decisions? How do 2 different people make decisions? Because it's so critical to make a decision about how you're going to make decisions. Make a decision that brings you together rather than drives you apart. So I want to thank you for being on this call. I would love to hear what you got from it. What made the biggest difference for you? Was it the skill set? Was it the communication? Was it this thing that's behind me? Last time in quick review: heart set, mindset, skill set, the 3 big building blocks. In your heart set, you have your friends, your partners, your lover. One person, it's a friend. This is the person you're with is your friend, your partner, your lover. And friends are someone you can trust, someone that you can talk to, someone that is accepting you. Your partner, someone who has your back, you have vision and values, you feel like you're on a team. Your lover is someone where there's romance and passion and intimacy. So what's running the show? Your ROS, your relationship operating system, made up of your habits, patterns, beliefs. That's all invisible. That's why you need some tips and tools and maybe a coach to help make the invisible visible so you can update your 20, 30, 40-year-old ROS. Skill set, right down there. So heart set, mindset, skill set, how to clear up the past, connect and get present, create possibilities for the future. If you have these 2, you're now willing. If you have these 2, you're available. And if you have these 2, you're capable of having a remarkable relationship. So thank you so much. If you want to know more, I'm going to give you several ways to dive deeper into all of this. On the screen right now, arguelesslovemore.net/ask. It's a quiz. It's a relationship quiz. So you can basically look at the 7 different core skills, these 7 skills, and figure out which one's causing the most challenge in you. Where is your superpower? Where is your kryptonite? So go take that. The other thing is the guy who helped put all of this together, it was really his brainchild or his baby, is a guy named Scott Katamas. Scott runs Love Coach Academy. If you think about Scott and me, we do projects together, and this is one of them. But Scott has a huge heart and teaches a lot about empathy and understanding, which are absolutely one of the 7 skills here, critical. I have a bit of a big mind. Like, I want to analyze everything. That's where you get all of these charts. This, by the way, we didn't talk about it today, but it's your relationship operating system. It's a diagram of that. So if you want to find out more, we run these calls 6 o'clock at night, West Coast time, 9 in the morning, West Coast time. Either I'm running them, Scott's running them, Debbie G from Gratitude or Spirituality Gone Wild, or one of the other love coaches is on, and we talk about, my focus is on couples. Scott's on couples, any types of relationships, empathy. Debbie's all about gratitude. We have people talking about recovery and a wide variety of things. The idea here is on tips, tools, and techniques to keep us compassionate and connected and communicating during these incredibly wonderful but challenging times where America's waking up. It's a bit like we're in our terrible twos right now, and everybody's like, no, cranky. And people are going, I'm tired. I'm not going to take it anymore. And so we really need to look at how we're going to reorganize this planet so we get along better and deal with each other and embrace diversity rather than rebelling against it. So thank you very much for spending time with me. If you want personal coaching, you can get a hold of me at Argue Less, Love More. Go through take the survey first, not the survey, the quiz, and then reach out. And I can talk to you about how I work with people and if it will be a fit. And if it's not a fit, there's the Love Coach Academy has a whole group of amazing coaches. And if I'm not a fit right now for coaching, then somebody there could be a fit if you want to coach. The way I look at it is you have a choice. You can either do it on your own, which is like blazing a trail, which is fun to do occasionally, or you can follow a trail, which I do regularly. If I want to get somewhere fast, if I don't want to spend a ton of time and energy and make a million mistakes, I'll follow a trail versus blazing one. All right. Thank you so much for joining me. Have an awesome evening. I will talk to you later. Ciao.